So, hello. This is going to be one of those rare times that I do a video like this on my channel. Um, I'm probably going to consider doing more videos like this in the future. More vlog type style videos, along with all my other, you know, vintage, railroad footage that I post on my channel. But this doesn't have anything to do with that. This has something to do with something that is really really important to me personally, and I feel like that as the years go by, that this is something that I really need to put out there, and because it really has had an immense emotional impact on my life, and I felt the need to, make a video about this. So, there has been times in the past, pretty much comments on my YouTube videos where, some individual, as old as, between 80 and 85 years old, maybe even older, I think, I can't remember off the top of my head, have, commented on my videos, and I greatly appreciate that. And it's understandable for sure, since many of the equipment that I post, date back to, around that time period, of the, 40s and 50s. And I must ask, and this is a video for those who, lived during that time period or around that time period. So, I for a long time now, I have had an immense interest in the 1940s, and I really, really like that time period very, very much. I really like the lifestyle, the culture, fashion, movies, and music from that time period, very, very much. And oh yeah, the radio shows are very interesting as well. One radio show that always pops up to my mind is Little Orphan Annie, and I just think that's just really really fascinating that that back then you could just basically turn on the radio, and it's kind of like their own version of watching TV back then, and that's just mind blowing. Um, what else? Yeah, and you know the radio shows back then, people it, help kids, create their own imagination, or have an imagination, and it just amazes me so much. And I really want this video to be for people that lived around that time period, because I'm very very curious to know what life was back what life was like back then. And I like reading stories from, especially on social media. I'll go on, um, historical, history related Facebook pages, or groups, I guess if you want to call them that, and I'll ask, you know, um, if anybody had lived back during the 1940s, they could please share their story. And reading what people who lived back then, it just amazes me. And especially when the group is, sometimes I have to say that sometimes AI will run those groups, because I look at the admins, and sometimes I don't think that they're real people. But those that are run by real people, the amount of comments that I get, it just inspires me so much, and I just find it really really fascinating on how life was like back then. And you could clearly tell that people had a lot more class back then, compared to how things are today, and it just amazes me. So yeah, another um, one of my favorite artists or musicians from that time period that I enjoy listening a lot is Judy Garland and the Andrews Sisters, also Frank Sinatra and Fred Astaire and Bing Crosby. I love listening to them all, and the big band music that they had back then also, and I just think that nothing can compare to, the music that we have today. I mean, the music back then was just, superb, amazing. Um, I can't say enough how much I really appreciate how simple life was back then, and just the way how everything is today. For me, it's kind of scary, and I know that stuff that my generation does, that the older generation they would have been flabbergasted about, and I really don't blame them, and I wasn't you know raised to be like that, the way how my generation is, and I try not to be like that, but sometimes it's very very difficult, but you know um I must say this, that I often wish that I could witness firsthand of how life was back then. Just you know truly inspires me, truly amazes me, and the cars, and how the streets were always clean back then. um Nowadays it's not like that, unfortunately. It's a lot more worse, especially when you go to a city like New York. And back then in the 40s, and yeah, back then during the 40s, it was always pretty much clean, from what I heard from others, and who lived back then. So I really, as time goes by, there's less and less people from who lived back then, and it really really saddens me, because I feel like that I learned a lot more from the older generation than I do from my generation. And I really really appreciate their insight on life, and how life was back then, and how they feel about life now, and just very very fascinating. And not to get too off topic, but my I've always wanted the videos that I post, related to vintage railroad footage that I post, that's always I for me that always has been geared towards the older generation. And just believe it or not, even though I'm only like 28 years old, that equipment is what I grew up with as a child, from the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and oh yeah, the 30s as well, late 30s. That the railroad equipment from that time frame is what has been is what left a huge impact on my life, and pretty much my passion as well as some of the newer equipment. But the older equipment is where I pretty much feel at home, I guess if you want to call it that. But yeah, I'm really really interested. And if there are anybody who lived during the late say during the late 1930s, or 1940s, and if they grew up back then, I would encourage those people to reach out to me, because I'm very very interested in hearing your story of what life was like back then during the 40s, and maybe 50s as well. But my focus is um, the late 1930s and 1940s, as that time period. Just like I said, it mind blows me a lot how life was back then, and it truly does inspire me. So I truly do believe that generation had the most amount of class, along with their parents' generation as well, the people who lived back then. So yeah, please feel free to email me, or reach out to me on social media. I'm pretty much easy to find on Facebook. But I'll in case if you can't find my email address on YouTube, I'll put it in the about section, because I know that I think if you don't have a YouTube account, you're not going to be able to retrieve my email address on there. But I'll definitely try to remember putting my email address in the about section as well. So yeah, please reach out to me regarding how life was back during the late 1930s and 1940s for you. Really would appreciate that, because again, it really does inspire me, and I love learning from the older generation as opposed to my generation. Um, that generation, along with their parents' generation, your generation, I should say, has, in my opinion, more class than my generation does, and I loved hearing, how life was back then for you guys. So, if you I would really appreciate that if you could reach out to me and share your story. And for me, it's really insightful. And I kind of wish one of my life regrets is, not showing an interest in the American life during the 1940s when I was a lot younger. So yeah, this video is for those Americans who lived back during the late 1930s and 1940s, and yeah, and again, I really would love to hear from you guys. I'm truly also all about, preserving that time period, the late 1930s and 1940s, and again, any insight with sharing, your best memories of that time period and what was like growing up back then. I would greatly appreciate that. Also, if you have anything from, the late 1930s or 1940s as well, and you would like to share that, because I'm about preservation as well, please let me know, and I would greatly appreciate it. So that's going to be it for this video. Please, share, like, and subscribe. I know not many people from that generation have a YouTube account, but if you do, I really appreciate it. Really, helps out my channel. And anyways, that's going to be it. And I wish you guys have a good day. Bye for now.